Hey, what's up, everyone? You're currently tuned into TBD here on KCSB FM 91.9 in Santa Barbara and netnetradio.com out of Tijuana. We have Mari Maurice from her project More Ease from her home in Austin. So, how have you been holding up during the quarantine, the pandemic? We have, or like, what have you been up to? How have you adapted? How do you like virtual gigs? The world has been pretty chaotic the past couple months, especially for those living in the US.
Um, so I feel like the beginning of quarantine it kind of was like a much needed pumping of brakes for me.
Yeah.
I was going way too hard in terms of like playing shows and just like really kind of overextending myself.
Mm-hmm.
At the time too, I worked a job where I had to be at work at 6 a.m. every day.
Oof.
Uh,
Oh
and
God.
so I was doing that and then playing in like three or four bands, playing guitar or bass or, a variety of things. And I was like getting pretty burnt out.
Yeah.
And because I was also like doing a bunch of like recording for Maurice and
Mm-hmm.
recording for these other projects. And so like when I first started, I was kind of like, oh wow, like it's crazy to have all this free time. I can do so much recording. That feeling has like quickly worn away.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially like the last month has been really challenging. Just like realizing, we're coming up on a year of this,
I know, isn't that
and
wild?
it's like really bummed me out because like a huge part of my life and like socialization
Mm-hmm.
has been around like playing shows, playing music, like doing like being out in this way, and kind of having that sort of zapped away over the last year just like really has started to hit me very heavily.
Yeah.
So I would say it's like been a mixed bag of dealing with it. It has been, I will say the thing that has been positive is I've been like recording a ton, which has been like really exciting. I feel like I have all the work I'm doing right now collaboratively and recording wise
Mm-hmm.
is like stuff I always dreamed about doing, and like I'm getting to work with people like I really love, and so that part of it feels really great. I do miss the like IRL connection and IRL
Yeah.
like playing music. So I have, while I've been like very rewarded by a lot of the, kind of circumstances, or maybe rewarded is not the right word, but I feel like I've found ways to make the circumstances like beneficial in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's also just been really, hard in others. I feel like I've just dipped my toes into doing live streaming stuff, like really only in the last like 3 or 4 months. Um, and it's been interesting,
Mm-hmm.
largely because all of the shows I was doing as Maurice before quarantine were more collaborative, like kind of improvisatory things,
Mm-hmm.
working with other people. And I had this realization. I did a live stream a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh my God, this is the first like solo Maurice that I've done in like over a year, like figuring
Oh,
out how to play stuff live.
Yeah,
And it's
wow.
also been challenging because like all the recordings have I've been working on have mostly been collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, well, okay, how do I like what is it that I do?
Yeah.
Which like has been kind of exciting to like, figure that out again. But it's also been like an impetus to like write a lot of new material because a lot of the stuff that's recorded is just kind of it's difficult to play live, and also I feel like I'm a little bit moved on from it, so it has like been great to sort of like start writing a lot of like solo material and really kind of figuring that out and working in that way.
So that's awesome. Well, I'm glad to see that you were still like able to stay like productive, and you're able to find, I guess, like a way to relax in the very beginning, and like kind of like figure out how you're gonna adapt to this. I feel like it was just a big shock to everybody, and that time off for like
Oh
the first, at
yeah.
least the first couple months was kind of like good for everyone. I was talking to my girlfriend about this recently. Like, I honestly don't remember like the last time that I was able to just like sit and do nothing for a long time and kind of just like be with myself because I was always like, trying to plan shows, like trying to
Mhm.
doing, what I'm saying? It was just like crazy, just nonstop, like go, 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 trying to like, find a job or like do internships, like whatever. You know what I'm saying? So
100%. Yeah, I think I was very much in the same boat with that.
yeah.
Uh, and like I, you know, also watched a lot of like TV and
Yes,
films.
yes. Yeah,
I was
same thing.
I was reading a lot, like especially at the beginning of quarantine. I need to like kind of get back into
I
that.
feel you. I feel you.
But I read more books like in the first part of 2020 than I think I had in like a year or two, and so that was like really awesome. But I love reading, but it's also just it's hard to sometimes carve time for that
Yeah,
in
exactly.
normal worlds.
What were some book recommendations you have from then?
Um, my favorite thing that I read was Oval by Olivia Welks. I think that's the name of the author. Um, Super good. It's like very bizarre, kind of like dystopian,
Mm,
but like not in this overtly sci-fi way.
yeah.
A lot of it has to do with like gentrification of Berlin is where it takes place. And it's great because like the novel is it's like fairly normal until like
Mm-hmm.
the last like 100 pages or so. And it just goes completely off the fucking rails, which is great. It gets into like, oh, what's the name of the guy who wrote Annihilation and
Oh,
that whole book series?
Mm-hmm.
It
the
gets
the southern, yeah, the southern.
Hmm?
I forget
Yes,
the guy,
yeah,
but
yeah,
yes.
yeah. It gets into like that kind of territory in the like second half of the book, and it is like kind of unexpected, and it gets super bizarre and strange and surreal. Very good. It was like everything I want from a book. And then another book that I really love that I read early in quarantine that like hit a little too close to home to the situation is The Flame Alphabet by Ben Marcus,
Mm-hmm.
which is also like very kind of dystopian weirdo sci-fi. But in this book, it's like all these parents become like violently ill to the speech of children,
Mm.
and like a bunch
That's
of like
wild.
super crazy stuff starts happening with that. It's like, yeah, this like giant pandemic and people are like fleeing, and um it's also super super weird. And there's like just like these bizarre like kind of David Cronenberg-esque
Oh
images in
boy.
it, and it's great. And then my friend Claire loaned me this book by Simon, oh god, what's his name? I'm gonna totally forget it. It's this guy who's like an experimental musician, but he wrote a bunch of books too. Crap, I'm have to like think of it. This is awful that I'm forgetting the name of the
It's
book.
not Simon Reynolds. It's
It's
not
not Simon Reynolds. I was
Okay,
about to say Simon Reynolds, and it's definitely not Simon Reynolds.
I read his books. I read Retromania and Rip It Up, and I was like, oh, okay, this is good.
Yeah. Oh, God, I'm trying to think of his name. I'm gonna like Google really quick because he did a bunch of stuff with Gabby Lasansi.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Here, this is going to get. Oh, yep. Here we go. Simon Morris.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
Civil War by Simon Morris is great, and like, it's this very bizarre, like, super fucked up, like, essentially, like, description
Yeah.
of like a relationship breaking up, but through the frame of a critical evaluation of the Guns N' Roses discography.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
really good. It's really, really good. And it's super sad. It's very funny, and there's actually a lot of like great Guns N' Roses trivia in it
That's
too.
honestly
But it's
sick.
also like super sad, and it's short, and it's that. So those I would say are like the three best things I've read, and I'm reading the new Jenny Haval book very slowly
Oh,
now.
that's right. She has a book. Oh my
Her,
god, I
right?
loved her stuff.
Yeah, I do
I-
too. Her,
I need to find those books of hers because I've always been really terrific.
yeah, the new one is crazy. And the one before it, Paradise Rot, is like
Yeah.
really phenomenal. I love that one a lot. I'm about halfway through the new one, and it's wild. It's definitely like unlike anything I've ever read.
This is so good to hear.
That's
Yeah.
sick.
Happy to deliver that information.
I think I'm gonna have to start reading a little more. I'm gonna have to check out some of your recommendations, honestly. That one about Guns N' Roses. What was the title of that book again?
Civil War.
Civil War? That sounds insane, honestly.
Yeah, it's really great. And yeah, Simon Morris was like this like experimental musician.
Oh, that's
Had a
sick.
lot of kind of like noise projects and stuff.
Yeah.
Seems like a really interesting character. I don't know his music super well, but my friend Claire loaned me a couple of his other books, and so I definitely need to dive into those as well. They're all very short, and but Civil War is like really something else.
Yeah, that sounds crazy. I'm gonna have to look up his music too. Maybe play it on the show as well.
Yeah,
But
there's some like I think he had some like pretty wild like borderline pop stuff, but still like
Yes.
still like
I don't
noise
know.
or something.
There's some descriptions of it in the beginning of this book where I'm like, yeah, this sounds like it's probably my scene. I should seek this out.
Actually, okay, so speaking of your scene or about the stuff, I've seen Jim O'Rourke, Blue Gene Tierney, and then Max Tundra mentioned a lot in interviews or stuff that you've played around with. And yes, I'm really hype on those latter two. And then last year we got Blue Gene Tierney as a Fun Drive exclusive. It's hiding in the
Oh
KCSB
wow.
office, the Out of the Blue. It's just there on CD, the reissue. But what are kind of like the biggest things you've taken away from those people?
Um, I mean, I think something that's like big in all three of those artists' work is this kind of like blurring of the lines between like, kind of more pop music
Hmm.
and experimental music, but in this way that doesn't seem like particularly forced, like it's like very natural. Um, and there's a lot of like interesting writing from Jim O'Rourke about this and like different interviews about like kind of how he thinks of experimentation in songs more as like a formal thing and like less of a textural thing, which I think is like great and
Hmm.
definitely something like I'm interested in, but I'm also like very interested in the textural part of that too, obviously.
Are you a bigger apologies to interrupt, but are you like a bigger Drag City fan of his stuff, or then more of the Steam Room series, or even
I would say
Addictions
both
Mega?
pretty equally, honestly, because I love the Steam Room stuff as well. And like probably my favorite Jim O'Rourke album is actually "I'm Happy and I'm Singing in a 1-2-3 Chord,"
Oh, the
which
IDM, it's good.
yeah, because that I feel like that's like the perfect marriage of all of his ideas because it is like very catchy, but it's also just like insane computer music. Yeah, I love that record. That's like I feel like I could blame that record for my career in some ways. um, so that's like something I'm a huge fan of. And then Blue Jean Tyranny, uh, yeah, I feel like I got into a lot of like really great stuff because of his work because like he did a lot with Robert Ashley, who's someone like I really admire too, and just like the way Robert Ashley deals with sound and speech and collage is like something I've always been super interested in.
Hmm.
And then, but Blue Jean Tyranny is like Out of the Blue. I can remember hearing that when I was like 20 or 21 or so and just being like, yeah, this is like exactly what I want to do. Like, not necessarily completely like, imitating the sonic world, but like the way things are structured and how that album is like these three just like incredible pop tracks. And then there's just like 25-minute like collage piece. I was like, yep, that's like everything I'm interested in.
Those are the best albums where it's 25 minutes of, oh, that's the big
Yeah.
piece, and then 5 songs of just classic Stone Cold.
Yeah, exactly. It's my ideal album format most of the time. And then Max Tundra is just like a whole nother tier. I've actually like out of all those people, I've had some communications with Max Tundra in the last year
Oh,
and
that's so
found out that
sick.
he's like a fan, which is very
Oh,
cool.
wow, that's
Uh,
crazy.
but his shit was also like life changing because it's just like there's so much happening and so much detail crammed into his songs that it's just like I don't know, it's something like I always strive for, like kind of like every moment is leading to like this like emotional climax, but then like going into this next thing that's totally different and kind of just throwing like a lot of caution to the wind in terms of like thinking about like, well, this song kind of sounds like you know, like a Britpop song, and now it's going to be just this insane thing that sounds like Carl Stone or something. And yeah, I love his work a lot. Getting to have like a few recent Twitter interactions with him has definitely been like a very validating experience, because it's just like, dude, you have no idea how many times I've listened to Mastered by the Guy at the Exchange, and like how many times I've put like Lights or Hilted on every mixtape I ever made. So that's been very cool.
So are we gonna see a Max Tundra Maurice collab soon?
I would hope so. That would be great. No, there have been a few other things. I don't know how much I can reveal, but I've been very lucky in getting.
We did talk to Bryn last week.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. Oh, did Bryn spill the beans on our trio at all?
Oh, it was so funny. He was just like, so we brought it up, and he was like, "How did you know that? How do you know that?" And we're just like, were we not saying? He's just like, "No, I'm just kidding." And then he just like talked about it, but it's really funny. That's sick that you guys are.
So that's obviously a super cool situation too, and someone else who's like a musician I've really looked up to, and like getting to work on, like, you know, a record with, and so, yeah, it's very good to like gradually be connecting with like a lot of like kind of early 2000s like electronica heroes. Yeah, obviously it's super validating, and I feel like all that stuff is like super relevant and like super real to like everything that's happening in contemporary realms too. I feel like kind of that stuff is circling back, which is like really awesome.
Oh yeah, for sure. So you're mentioning some of like your, you know, early influences and stuff. And like by glancing at your Discogs, you've created like a massive catalog of work with like labels from all over the place, such as like Already Dead, Orange Milk, Finery, who Bryn was actually mentioned. He did a record with Finery, I believe.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he did. It's really good.
Yeah. What's it called? Aural Canyon, Astral Spirits. So you had to start somewhere. Was there a before Maurice?
Oh yeah, it's very embarrassing. I mean, I've been playing music for like, I've been writing songs and like playing publicly since I was like 15 years old. And so I grew up in San Antonio, and San Antonio is like a very like kind of magical, but also like, especially at that time, like it was sort of a difficult place to be creatively when you wanted to do anything that was like not like, you know, sort of bar band rock. And so I feel like I grew up playing like a lot of like folky kind of stuff and writing some like extremely shitty original songs, and made like, you know, a lot of like CDs when I was like a teenager that are just awful, like all under like my dead name. And so I'm sure they're out there somewhere, but hopefully very, very hard to find, because it's like not anything I want anyone to discover or hear. And then kind of like gradually, I was always into like weirder stuff. Just I'd always gravitated towards things that were really strange. I think a very pivotal thing for me growing up was hearing Yankee Hotel Foxtrot by Wilco. Because I was like into like pop punk and like a lot of emo. And then I bought that CD at like a recommendation in Rolling Stone, and I was just like, whoa, what is happening? And it's funny because one of my closest friends who I was in a band with at the time, he bought it like at the same time. And like, I think his initial reaction was like, this is bullshit. Like, why would I listen to this like weird like dude like mumbling like nonsense over like, you know, static and noise.
Good heavy metal drummer.
Oh yeah. I mean, and then there's that. I think his initial consensus was like, heavy metal drummer is pretty cool. And then I was just like, no, this is like awaken something. And so there were a couple of people in San Antonio at the time who like would put on experimental music concerts, and I started going when I was a teenager and just got like really interested, started like writing electronic music when I was in college, and had a really great professor who kind of like taught me almost everything I know. And I was still in San Antonio at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I feel like basically the person I studied with, I was very fortunate, like that he encouraged me to like kind of do pop music, but also to do like super weird stuff, and like turn me on to a lot of like early electronics music and like glitchy laptop stuff that was like absolutely formative, and kind of like, you know, eventually got me into like the artists we were talking about earlier. And so that yeah, I guess like that's kind of it. And just like, you know, several years of just like playing like really bad like singer songwriter material as like a, you know, like 16-17-year-old, and then like always wanting to do weirder stuff and eventually getting there.
Yeah. So when did you start like experimenting? I know you said you played in like bands and stuff, so I guess like how did you start, I guess, making
again, it was like around high school, and like it was kind of at the time, you know, like Animal Collective, like the early Animal Collective stuff was like becoming big, and a lot of like a lot of other sort of, I'm trying to get like the right word for it, but it's like CDR, American noise music, is like the only way I can think of describing it. Like Yellow Swans is a band I remember being very important to.
Yeah.
Like I remember I had a cool friend who burned me a Yellow Swan CD, and another like super direct, like super formative experience was like seeing Alan Leicht play live in San Antonio with Tatsuzi Akiyama. And that just, I think I was like 16 or 17, and my brain was just completely like melted from that. So I met someone at the show who was like the only other like, teenager there.
Yeah.
And so like we started talking, and like we recorded a bunch. A like friend gave me this 4-track. Oh, actually, like I'm like uncovering a bunch of like crazy shit talking about this right now. I worked with this like, when I was like 16 to like 18, I worked with this like older woman who was like a performance artist who did these like really weird pieces. I don't know why she took a liking to me, but like asked me to like play violin in these pieces, and I would usually be wearing these like crazy costumes and stuff. And at the end of like one of the performances, she's like, "I want you to have this," and it was like a Tascam Porta Studio.
Oh wow!
Wow!
I started working like on this Porta Studio and just recording these like insane sound collages that I had like no idea what I was doing with, and met this friend of mine, and like at the Alan Leicht show, and we started like recording stuff that was sort of like very early Animal Collective, very like Yellow Swans together.
Perfect marriage.
Yeah. I wish I had a copy of that. I'm pretty sure all of that is like completely lost to time at this point, because that was probably like the first good thing I did.
Yeah.
And so like we did that, and then I joined this band in Austin called Moth Fight, who were like also very like early Animal Collective, and I like had met them just through playing shows and went on a tour with them when I was 18, and that band was just like complete insane, like kind of pop, like 1-minute pop song, like 2 minutes of just insane noise. And that was like, I guess, like kind of formative experiences of like, you know, figuring out how to improvise and maybe see how a lot of these things are connected and work. I was actually like laughing the other day about how much I remembered at the time, like all these sound guys for Moth Fight really hated me. Which first of all, like I was like 18 and like super gay. And it's just like, you know, already like, you know, not a great combo for like some crusty, like 40-year-old curmudgeon to deal with.
Yeah.
And so I was like coming in with like this single guitar amp that was like an acoustic guitar amp, and I was like, yeah, okay, like I'm going to run my violin out of the Tascam Porta Studio with with like this crappy like, you know, early 2000s sampler pedal that like sometimes I'd loop violin on, but mostly it was just blasting like insane samples we'd made.
Yeah.
And that was all going into the Tascam Porta Studio, which is going into the amp. And then sometimes I would fuck with the tape live, and I would be like, yeah, just take a DI out on this amp. And like this would have been fine if it was just violin, but all of this shit is like going out of this amp. And I was like, I would always sound check the like quiet violin part, and then there'd be a song where there's just like, and like the sound guy's just like running, trying to. I've probably like destroyed like a few clubs' PA systems in retrospect, and at the time I was just like, I don't know why everyone's so like mad at me about this, and now like in retrospect I'm like, no, because I was a psycho like going in here because I just like didn't know what I was doing, but that was like, I guess, kind of how I got into experimental music, but I always was like interested in pop too, and like very, I don't know, for me, like having both of the things, it's like impossible for me to commit to like kind of one thing or another. And the sort of realm in which I don't know, I get most excited is where like you kind of don't know what to call a thing. And so that's like, I don't know, where I guess I try to exist most of the time.
That's funny. So I guess like when did Maurice start? Like when were you finally just like, okay, yeah, this is gonna be my project, Maurice. Yeah, I'm gonna do this stuff solo.
It was around 2014, 2015. And so I started like working on this material that just seemed to be really different from things I was doing before. And like I had, I guess, like initially sort of like more kind of aesthetic ideas of what the project would be, and then that kind of flew out the door within like a couple of releases. And so I started to do that around that time. And I mean, it's like kind of interesting, like looking back at it now, because I feel like I had a lot of feelings about just like not really wanting to be seen as the person that I like was at the time, and just sort of wanting to like escape and have like this other like almost like persona in a way. And I think a lot of it was like closeted feelings about like gender and transitioning that I hadn't really unpacked. And I was like, I don't know, I also feel like kind of first figuring out how to really sing for the first time too, despite having like sung in these other bands. And so I think a lot of those feelings were kind of tied into like starting to perform as Maurice too, and kind of like just these ideas of fluidity, and kind of like working with that in terms of like not only sound and sort of like ideas of notions of like genre, but also like within myself. And the self thing I think took a lot longer to realize and unpack, but I think that in a weird way was kind of the first step, was starting Maurice. And so I guess I started around then, and I did something for Already Dead, and then did a bunch of releases for this really tiny label in San Antonio called Kendra Steiner Editions. And like one of those very bizarrely took off, and just kind of like, I don't know, things snowballed from there. And
well, probably the biggest thing was because there are so many releases, and the first time I came into contact with the Maurice project came from this got sent to KCSB as well. It was a Fireside Chat.
Wild, yeah.
And I ended up getting that in a set with Food Man and
cool.
Machine Girl, and I was like, okay, sweet, let's go for it. And then it was the first time I've been revisiting that in a while, several months, along with The Other Than Never Anything from 2016, and then also the huge stylistic difference between that and Marie from last year, which again, how long was that taking to do altogether? The songs on Marie, how long did that take?
So it's interesting, like there are a lot of like releases I did kind of in the early phases of this project that it's just I feel like I really like don't identify with anymore. Or there are like a lot of things that I feel like, you know, in an ideal world, like this would all be, there'd be like a Maury's greatest hits, and like I would just compile like the best tracks of that. And so like, yeah, Mari, I think, was kind of like a, sort of like a reset in a way. And that's definitely what it felt like for me. And I almost considered doing it under another name, but I was like, no, this is ridiculous. I've like, playing under this name for years. But those pieces I started like actually like shortly after that first Orange Milk tape. And it's actually really interesting you talk about the Never Anything and the Orange Milk tape, because I feel like those are like the first two things where I was like, this is getting pretty close to like what I want to do. And I think that like those two and then this release I did for Lillern tapes are like the three things that are from like past Maury's that I feel like I've taken the most into like what I'm doing now. But I started working on some of the songs for Mari shortly after I finished that Orange Milk tape. And so like the song I Don't Want It, I recorded the first version of in 2017, and which is also when I was like kind of starting to unpack a lot of feelings about, being trans, and kind of like really figure that out for myself. And so I wrote I Don't Want It, and I recorded that song probably like at least 5 to 10 times. And none of them, those versions were like the thing. Yeah. It drove me crazy. There's even a version that's really close to the one that's on the record that I completely scrapped and started over on. So that's like definitely the earliest song. I think the same year, maybe the year after, I wrote the song Tears, and then one night in like a drunken self-loathing fit, deleted the Ableton session for it, and was just like, this is all garbage, like all this work is garbage. And then like I showed it to my partner, who was just like, this is fucking great. And I was like, oh crap, like I gotta like figure out how to like save this file. Thankfully the mastering engineer I was just like, I'm so sorry, the song is louder than everything else on the record. And so he had to like do some miracle working, I think, with Mari. But yeah, I started working on that like pretty shortly after, and it was really this like very slow process, and I kept starting over and deleting and starting over, because it just like wasn't what I wanted. And there were a few tracks I worked on that, were going to be for something else, or like maybe something slipped on to like a release from like 2018. But for the most part, I was like working on it pretty obsessively, even though I was doing a few other things at the time. I feel like I can't work on or finish anything unless I have like 3 projects all like in mid-air. Just kind of a personality, like I don't know if it's a benefit or flaw. I think both sometimes. But yeah, it definitely was a really long process working on that record, and there was a lot of like starting over. The song Gender Dysphoria Trauma Bonding was another song that there are like 18 versions of. The first version was like a very American analog set sounding song.
Whoa, that's kind of sick.
And then the second version was like this almost like shoegaze folk with auto-tune version.
That's sick.
And then there was a version that sounded kind of like Double Negative by Low.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And like none of them were quite what I wanted. And then like I had the thought that I would have Randall from Amulet send me a bunch of guitar
Oh,
loops.
that's tight.
And I heard this like one later Robin single that like there's just this kick drum going the whole time. I was like, I wonder if maybe this song will work if I try it like this. And that wound up being the like final version. But yeah, I definitely like, spent more time working on Mari than anything else I've probably ever done. It was like 3 years of like intermittent working on it. I feel like the last year things really ramped up, and that was like basically when it got finished. but yeah, there were a lot of like, you would not believe some of the alternate versions of some of the songs. Some of them were like done right away, but like Highly Organized Motivated was like an instrumental like multiple times, like dozens of versions of that too. And I played it live as an instrumental for like 2 years before recording it.
You're gonna have to release a Mari demos tape along with your best of Maurice.
I think keeping with like a lot of self-critical feelings, and also like just at the time, it's just also important to mention that is the last album I recorded fully on my 2009 MacBook Pro.
Whoa!
And it was like really clinging to life in some of those sessions because there were so many MIDI and audio tracks.
And the CPU cannot hold.
Yeah, no. So that's the other problem. Like, not only was I like, I think I deleted like any of the demos really, except for maybe some of the like completely radical alternate versions of the songs.
Yeah.
Just because there were like other iterations and ideas for the album, but like the MacBook was really clinging for dear life and like chronically out of space, which is just like this nightmare where I'd be like, mid-track and it's like, you can't save this because like you're out of space. No. It's like, oh, I gotta like delete all these sessions. And so I'm pretty sure a lot of those are also just deleted because I was like really that was another reason why I think it took so long, was like trying to deal with, oh my god, like how do I work with this computer that's like almost dying every single time.
I feel you. I'm still using my 2010 Mac right here actually for this interview, and it is barely hanging on. I keep texting my friends every day. I'm like, God, I'm surprised this motherfucker is still like working, dude. Like
I feel like I'm sure you'll go through this like if you get a new computer, but like when I finally like pulled the trigger, I was like, I'm just gonna buy a new computer and like I will never financially recover for this. But like I have to do it. I like I still had trauma in terms of like opening files because it used to be such a stressful event to work on.
Dude, yes.
Because I'd just be like, oh my god, it's gonna take like 15 minutes.
Yes, dude.
And then like I'm gonna have to deal with like the exporting and like all these other issues. So
dude,
talking about Audacity.
Yeah. It's like it's very it's been very weird to be like, oh, my computer like has space.
Yeah, my computer, I've been struggling actually. It's literally the stupidest thing. It annoys me so much, but it like doesn't recognize its internal speakers. And I'm like, how do
this happened to me too?
And I'm like, how does it not recognize its internal speakers? And I was like, bro.
Yeah, I literally went through like that same thing, and I use something I like to do sometimes, just like if I'm mixing or mastering, it's sometimes I'll use the like headphone jack because it's like, okay, this is gonna give me at least like a realistic picture of like what this is going to look like eventually when it's exported.
Yeah.
And I was literally like mastering something for my friend Claire. And I remember being like, this is so weird that Claire put all of these sounds in the left channel. And then I was like, oh, the headphone jack is broken.
Yes.
and then the internal speakers were not far after that. But that was like definitely I was like trying to do all this work to like stereo correct it.
Yes.
And then like I like plugged in my interface and I was just like, oh no, the headphone channel is just broken. This is totally fine. I can take all of this off.
That is so funny. Yeah. And it'll just like constantly just crash from the internet for some reason. And I'm just sitting there like, God damn, I need a new internet service, dude. And then I'm on my phone. I'm like, wait, it's still working though. And I'm like, oh, it's the computer. Makes sense. That should have been my first instinct, Yep.
I have also been there. Completely understand what you're going through.
Yeah. I've been making trying to get into like 3D graphics recently. This is like totally off topic, but like, have you heard of this program called Blender at all?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I've been trying to use Blender because I'm trying to make like 3D maps and stuff. And so I was like, oh, dude, my Mac will be able to handle this. Crash the computer, dude. Like I had to hard reset the whole thing because it was just crashed. Like, yeah, it didn't go well. But
Yeah, I went through that too. I had to do. I don't do like a ton of art. I never like consider myself like a visual artist, but like
yeah.
occasionally someone will ask me to do something, just like because I've done like little cartoon drawings. But I did this cover for another Aural Canyon release by my friend
Mm.
Granger, and it's like this little cartoon guy, and then I was trying to do these 3D rendered cubes,
Mm-hmm.
and like it should be the easiest thing in the
Yeah.
world. It's just like a cube,
Yeah.
and like literally that was like a like 8 hour experience
Yes,
of like
dude. And the
rendering and exporting
Whoa.
if you
a
get it
cube
to
and then trying
work.
to like put two cubes on the page together. It was
Yes.
so
It's
insane.
insane, dude. Yeah, Maddie, like you don't understand, dude. Like my computer will take so long to do the simplest things and I'll just be sitting here like, "Oh my God." I can like walk away, like eat lunch, do my entire day's worth of
Yep.
chores or something. Computer's still doing one
This
thing.
is a pain I know so well.
Yes.
It's brutal. Mari was
I
definitely
love
like,
that. I love that.
yeah, it's funny, like there was actually like both with Mari, and then the funniest thing I think is like there's one track on the tape Claire and I did that
Which one is this? Is that this one?
yeah, that one.
Yep.
The second track on that was also recorded on the 2009 MacBook Pro.
Oh, hell
Actually, that whole
yeah.
album was recorded on the MacBook Pro too. But it's very funny because the second track, I remember listening back to a mix at some point and being like, if I could only I wanted to make like a really minuscule like mixing adjustment. I just wanted like something like little bit lower, but it's like a 10-minute long track.
Yeah.
And every time I tried to reopen the Ableton file, my computer just crashed.
No.
And I was like, well, I guess I just have to live with this. This is like, it's something only I would notice to begin with. But I was just like, this is as good as it's going to get, because like I physically cannot open the file ever again.
I love that,
God.
dude. It's so funny to think that like I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes when you like listen to music, you have this like perception that like it went like so well and like it was just this like I don't know. That's just how I see it with music. I'm like, yeah, they knew exactly what the fuck they were doing and all that stuff. It's just so sick. It's just interesting to see that like you were struggling too. It's so funny.
Oh yeah, and then like you come up with a lot of like moves because of this struggle. I feel like
Yes.
So, yeah, that's definitely 100% how a lot of the last things I did on this computer were going. It was just like, I guess this is just like what it has to
Yeah,
be.
you work around it. You learn to work around it.
Yep.
So, in a 2020 Tone Glow interview, Claire Rousset mentioned that you had wanted to pen a piece entitled "An Ode to Emo Ambient." It's a phrase that's been popping up in your collaborative works with Claire. So,
it's yeah.
Yeah, it really struck a chord with us both, especially last night when you tweeted that La Bradford's self-titled is an original emo ambient.
Oh my God, yeah, it is though. It is. It's 100%. It is like the original emo ambient record. It's amazing. I'd never heard that one. I've been like a La Bradford fan and I've listened to a bunch of their stuff, but like actually Jake Muir tweeted about it a few weeks ago, and I was like, I should really listen to this one. Like I've never listened to this La Bradford record because honestly, when I was getting into La Bradford, I couldn't find it anywhere and like got it off of Mediafire in the early 2000s, and it was like definitely beggars can't be choosers. I was like, okay, cool, I got this.
That's the best part about the band, though. Every release is a little different. I found one for $2. Oh.
Yeah. And so like I feel like there are a lot of things from that time period. It's like, oh yeah, I can just like listen to this now like at any time. And so I was listening to that. I was like, holy shit, like this is the emo ambient record.
Yeah.
5 minutes in, when the organ hits.
Yes. Oh, I know. That song is so good.
So what... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so what exactly is emo ambient?
I feel like it's more of an attitude in some ways, and like I'm 100% serious, but I know it sounds ridiculous, but like I think it's sort of like, I guess like a lot of things Claire and I have done, like that same kind of attitude of like throwing sort of ideas of like what something needs to be out the door, like in terms of like stylistic. But I do think it's also, there is something quantifiable about it. And I think the Bradford record is a really good example, because it's like there are songs, but they're kind of like hazy. They like sort of come from this other place. But then there's all this stuff that's like sort of sound collaging. And even that first track on the Bradford record is like borderline like ASMR-esque until it kind of like kicks in. I was like totally shocked listening to that, because it sounds like it should be something contemporary.
Yes.
And so I think that like a lot of like emo ambient, it is sort of getting away from the idea. Like, I think something that like Claire and I feel really strongly about, and a lot of other artists that I would consider emo ambient like feel very strongly about, is getting away from this like idea of like ambient music as this like healing new agey thing, but also like not really into the idea of like dark ambient and like this sort of intensity thing, but also kind of in this realm where it can go a lot of different places, and ultimately it's sort of like rooted in trying to strike the same like emotional responses like emo music, which I feel like is definitely something, you know, we talk about a lot with our collaborative work. And I think that that's like, I guess, kind of where I'm coming from with it. We've definitely talked about it a lot, but it really is like, I think it's like, breaking away from like those kind of ideas of like ambient as this like healing, like new agey thing, but also not embracing like kind of like dark, like tortured artist sentiment that way.
Well, one thing that strikes me about kind of this tape, along with the wind split, the one from December, was also again how they do use vocal elements. They've got samples from TikToks, and then they're just it's very much about the minuscule things in life.
Yes,
I really love it.
And I think that that's also, I'm very happy. That's like exactly the next point I was about to make.
So sorry.
No. Thank you. You articulated that much more eloquently than I think I was about to. So I'm really happy you did that work for me. But yeah, no, 100%. And I think that that's like definitely something with like the Bradford too, and a lot of other people I think that we kind of see as being in this realm, is that it's like, there's like this kind of opening. I feel like a lot of ambient music is very closed. It like very much wants to like kind of world build in a way. And I mean, I think we're sort of doing that too, but the world is just like, you know, this room or like, you know, our day-to-day life. Like the piece with Windtide has like recordings of like my partner's childhood homes, like air conditioning that is just like insanely loud, and like this, and it has recordings of my dog sleeping and snoring, and like there's all these things that are brought in. And like Claire and I are working on another record, and one of the tracks has like multiple TikToks of audio that just kind of like float in the background over these other things. And so I think it's like, you know, there's this sort of inviting of the real into it, that is definitely something that I feel like is like a very quantifiable thing about emo ambient, because like emo is real. It's also like a contact with the real in a way.
100%,
like,
100%,
like,
yeah.
There's not like a pretension or a barrier between it.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like about getting to that sort of mood with this.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you say that, because like when I listen to emo music, it is very like, you know, like you were saying. So that's super cool. So like, who else would you consider, I guess, formative to the emo ambient movement?
Great question. So like, there's one other person, I mean, that I mentioned earlier. I honestly think Robert Ashley's automatic writing is 100% emo ambient in a lot of ways. That particular record, super great album. Well, honestly, I don't have any tattoos, but the one tattoo I wanted to get right before quarantine was the tattoo of Automatic Writing's album cover.
Oh, God, it's gorgeous.
It's so gorgeous, right? Oh, it's so good. And I feel like that's like the proto emo ambient.
Yeah.
Definitely LaBradford's record, and their discography in general, I would say, is very much in that too. Someone Claire and I are friends with, that we both really love a lot, is Lee Noble. And Lee's work is like, I feel like, truly prime emo ambient, because there's like these actual songs that kind of fall in and out of field recordings and found sound, and then these just like lush, beautiful drone pieces. Leah's just also, side note, a really wonderful human being, and I miss seeing him in LA a lot.
Wait a second, that's not Leah B. Levinson, is it?
No, Leah's great too. Leah's actually one of my best friends.
The Fire Tools essay she did is incredible. Really loved that.
Oh, yeah. Leah's work is also amazing, and I would say also can fall into emo ambient too in its own way. Yeah, Leah's really wonderful. So those are definitely some people I think we would kind of consider of that. And then more contemporary stuff, obviously, like I think Malibu / DJ Lost Boy is someone who we both really love, who I think is like, of course, like in that vein. And a lot of the stuff that comes out on West Mineral Limited and Lillern Tapes, I think, is also kind of like within that universe of sort of like working with similar palettes. And yeah, I think that that's like very much kind of a quick primer on emo ambient. And then also, you know, like Anna Roxanne and
because I was gonna bring that up though, as like a challenge of, so I've seen it presented a lot as very new agey, or at least doing a lot of healing stuff, but I keep seeing debates online about the merit of the vocals, which I think is really stupid, to like that this is a debate going on, or that people have really strong anti-feelings about the vocals. Her stuff always has been just, I don't know, so wonderful.
I'm huge fan of her work. And I had no idea that was going on about the vocals. That's like
it's 5 people online though. It's okay. It's a contained fight.
Okay. I do feel like that's like a thing too, is it's like, I think ambient music tends to, I mean, I guess maybe emo a little bit too, but I think like ambient music tends to be often very masculine in terms of like, which is unfortunate and very bizarre. But I think that like, especially some of the like kind of new agey stuff has been sort of co-opted in this weird like masculine kind of flexing way of like also very convoluted with like modular synths and sort of like this capitalistic like fetish about that.
100%,
I mean, say that with a grain of salt, because there's literally a modular synth like right over here, but it's a pretty pathetic one. And so like, I think that there's like this kind of like attitude a lot of times with that music of like, oh no, like you have to like there can't be vocals, like there are these rules, there are these things you're supposed to adhere to. And I do think kind of emo ambient is also a very big tossing aside of a lot of those notions. And like, I think about a lot of stuff that's on like West Mineral Limited, for example, and it's like, you know, it's not uncommon to hear like a vocal sample or a loop going throughout like music by a lot of those artists. And it's not uncommon to hear these other things that are kind of like outside of that realm, like, you know, beats or like this kind of like weird low quality, like YouTube almost like sound that's happening, like a degrading YouTube video. And so I think that like there's sort of this acknowledgement of like, everything is viable as a source.
So you mentioned emo music a lot, so are you into emo as well?
Oh yeah.
Who are some emo musicians that you're into?
So one of my favorite records of all time that I would also say is an emo ambient album is Clarity by Jimmy World.
Oh hell yeah.
It's like just truly one of the, it's so good. And it's like I feel like I have like ranted about it. I mean, the title of Claire and I's like cassette is from For Me This Is Heaven by Jimmy World, off of Clarity. And so that's like a huge record and I love it a lot too. I mean, of course, I love like all the Kinsella Brothers bands.
Oh hell yeah, yeah, for sure.
I really love Cap and Jazz. I think Cap and Jazz is
so
like
good.
super underrated weirdly. Like I
So
think that they're
good.
just like such a bizarre, amazing band. Like
Yeah.
it's just crazy that they kind of existed in this vacuum. Um, some other ones, I recently discovered a contemporary band called Guitar Fight from Fooly
Dude,
Cooley.
they're so sick. Yeah, they're just
You know
so
that
good.
band? Oh, they're
Dude,
so
yeah, they're
fucking
so
good.
good. They're
I
so
love that
fucking good.
record
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, great band. Other newer stuff. I like that band. Stay Inside. Is it Stay Inside? Or
Yes.
is that the name? Yeah.
It's Stay
Yeah.
Inside.
Yeah,
That's a
Stay
good
Inside
one.
is great. I really love Stay Inside.
Is
I
that a
guess kind of
band?
more.
That is.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I
They're
need to
on
check 'em out.
Sophie's floorboards.
Oh, really? Hell, oh, so that's
Yeah.
how you know they're emo for sure then. But
Yeah. I also like, I mean, there's a lot of kind of like screamo adjacent stuff I'm into as well. Like, I love Envy. I love,
hell yeah.
I really love Thursday a lot too.
Hell
Like,
yeah.
you know, what's that band? Nuevo Scalara. I'm probably
Nouveau
butchering-
Lascara, dude.
Yeah. That's them. That's them. Great
Yeah, our
band.
friend
Love that
Kristen
band.
from the station had them play a house show a while back.
No way.
Yeah. They're so good.
That's
I
so
showed
sick.
up just for it was like a post punk show, but then Nouveau Lascara was on the bill, and I didn't know Kristen at the time, so I just like showed up, and I was like for Nouveau Lascara.
Wait, was that the October 2018 one?
Something, dude. This was at Newman, and I was kind of just like, "What the fuck? Why is Nouveau Lascara on this bill?" But I was like the only one there that was just like, "Dude, this is so sick."
Was that the two
That's
guys?
so crazy. I love that.
It was so tight. Yeah. What were you saying, Maddie?
Wait, was that the two guys? One guy with a drum machine and one guy screaming.
Nouveau Lascara is like, yeah, it's like an actual like band. No, but yeah, it was like this band apart. Anyways, totally off topic, but Nouveau Lascara is so good, and I love that they're getting like the recognition that they need, because I feel like they're just like fucking strong arming scrams right now, which is just they're just killing it, dude. Like, yeah. Great stuff. I love that you're into like, I guess, contemporary emo music and stuff too, because like that's the other side of my show right now. I've been having a lot of people either that do ambient music or people that are emo bands. So it's kind of like
you came to the right girl.
Yeah, I love that this conversation kind of just like
yeah,
it's so tight. And like when I saw that like you and Claire were talking about like emo ambient, I was like intrigued into this shit, and I feel like the emo community needs to hear about this, and I feel like there needs to be some kind of like intertwining of this, you know?
That's the thing, is it's like, you know, obviously like we know and like work with like other ambient artists and have like this connection that way.
Yeah.
But like we definitely we're not really friends with any like big contemporary emo artist, and we're very into that world too.
Yeah.
And then like all that stuff is great. I should also mention like huge fans of emo rap too.
Oh hell yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Obviously like Lil Peep, Lil Tracy, all goth punk. Like there's an old Maurice song that we had one of the only releases I had a label budget for, and I pretty much spent all of it on getting a Slug Christ feature, which is like also very much a emo ambient, like, you know, progenitor is, I would definitely say, is Slug Christ.
That's so sick. What record was that on? I feel like I saw that recently. The Slug
Bodies in Code. A lot of which is one of those Warriors records where I'm like, you know, in retrospect, like I feel like I was still figuring a lot of things out.
Yeah.
But this track, I'm very proud of the track with Slug Christ.
Yeah.
I am very, very proud of the track with Slug Christ, and I cannot. And also, we had Slug Christ, and then Thor Harris, who used to play like Swans and Bill Callahan, all played on that played on that song too. And so like I feel like and Claire's on there too actually, and so it's like I'm very proud of having made a track that has Claire Rousset, Thor Harris, and Slug Christ.
That's
all
sick.
On it.
That is so sick.
The boys.
That was. The label botched a lot of other things, but like the owner of the label's been very canceled, and very rightfully so. Huge Austin scandal.
No.
But basically, I'm very happy that I was able to take their money and like get that song made with it.
Yeah, that is so sick. Yeah, I guess like I was saying before, I really wish that we could get emo ambient on the emo map because for some reason the emo community is so like they're so like into like categorizing like waves of emo in
I
different scenes.
know.
Have you
Yeah.
looked into this before? Like right now they're on the
I was
yeah, right
you're
now
the
they're on the
fifth wave.
fifth wave. Yeah, like right now they're on the fifth wave.
Oh, see, I wouldn't know. Like, I don't think about that going in, but I feel like any of those kind of like subgenres you get very into,
Yeah.
like it has to be this thing. Like we're
Yeah.
like this thing, and like the real splitting of hairs behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
Collecting.
Yeah, and the fifth wave is kind of like I guess what all the bands that are currently doing it, like Guitar Fight and stuff like that, Lobster Fight, like all these other bands, like
Glass Beach.
yeah, Glass Beach, Home is Where. I guess
Oh,
like what
Glass
they're
Beach is really
touting
cool.
is that they're like moving away and they are doing like the more like sound collagey type shit. Yeah, I don't know, really sick. I feel like I could go on about fifth wave, but anyways.
Yeah, we gotta get them in.
Yeah, we need to merge this somehow, dude. I need to
Yeah.
contact the washed up emo guy to do a podcast about emo ambient, and we need to have you and Claire on there to just like school this guy on emo ambient so we can get it on the map because that it seems like that guy is the one that just runs the wave or whatever. But
Oh
anyways,
yeah, no, that sounds great. I will do that anytime.
that would be so sick, honestly. I would live for a washed up emo podcast with Claire and Mari. That would be so tight.
Yeah,
Make it happen.
Honestly, that'd be so
yeah.
sick.
If that guy's out there listening, like this is it. Come on, like.
Hell yeah. So you co-run the small label New Computer Girls Limited with Claire Rousset. What can you tell me about that?
So it's very funny you asked about that because I just finished a text to someone trying to figure out what we're doing with this label.
Is there a PR burst? Is it a tweet?
So we basically did it because we wanted to like surprise release this EP over the summer, which like we kind of wanted to. We were just like working a ton and recording a ton, and we were like, well, let's just like record something and put it out and we can make it like a benefit, which is like basically how it started. And so we've been using it to kind of like co-release a few other like collaborative things like the split with Wind Tide. And we've been talking a lot about what to do with it this year. It's hard because we are both like insanely busy. Claire is also kind of like in the midst of like, you know, doing a lot of other projects and working very directly with this label American Dreams on a lot of things. Yeah. And so like she's got that going on, and then like I have just like a huge smattering of like releases planned, both solo and collaborative. And so we're trying to kind of figure out like how much New Computer Girls will do, but we want to ideally release music from our other artists other than ourselves. And one thing that segues perfectly for what we're talking about that we've been discussing is an emo ambient compilation.
What? That'd be sick.
Of like a lot of people that we feel like are in the world.
Yeah.
And sort of like doing something like that this year, but it may not happen at all because this is all just talks right now.
Yeah.
But this friend of mine who I play in a band called Alex Alone with messaged me about like some music that they were working on. And I was basically like, oh yeah, well, you know, we don't know if New Computer Girls is going to 100% be a real label.
Yeah.
But like, you know, if we have the time and the budget to do so, we will like definitely release your music. And so like that's in the works. And then I think one thing, I don't know when this will come out either, but like myself and Lucy Liu are going to do like kind of a 7-inch together, I think.
So sick.
New Computer Girls that will be more kind of in pop world.
So dope, yeah.
But that's all like talk right now. I don't want to say that any of these things are for sure happening or for sure happening this year, but like basically we're trying to kind of see how much we can do with the imprint.
Yeah.
Just given like our schedules and everything. And so the compilation I really want to make happen, but that's like I don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah, that would
So
be
if you feel like you're making emo ambient music and you're listening to this, please hit New Computer Girls up.
please, that would be amazing actually. That'd be so sick.
We need
Um
it.
so I guess like outside of New Computer Girls Limited and like the collaboration with Bryn we were talking about, do you have anything else in the oven for this year?
Yeah, I have a full length record with Seth Graham, who runs Orange Milk, coming
Oh
out.
hell yeah.
Um, and it's also very emo ambient in a
So
very good
sick, so
way.
sick.
It's like it's super crazy. It's also like very strange because I feel like I'm essentially in the role of lead singer,
Hmm.
and so
Congratulations.
I'm mostly singing over these tracks Seth made, and there are a few tracks that like I started, and so like I've played like piano here and there
Hmm.
or violin here and there, but a lot of it is stuff that Seth has just like sort of composed and like warped around. But I'm very stoked on it, and I'm not sure when that will be out, but I would assume we've been discussing it probably around the summer. And there's a lot of other people from Orange Milk involved too.
Hmm.
Galen
Ooh.
Tipton is on like a couple of tracks.
Hell yeah.
Um, Meta Nori, who is like one of my favorite artists right now, who is super underrated and on Orange did a release for Orange Milk a few years ago. She is like duetting on one of the tracks too. I think Nick Storing played cello on a track as well. I don't know because a lot of the strings and stuff are super manipulated and warped after the fact. But I think Nick did record some cello for us, and this free jazz sax player Karen Ing is also there. So
Oh
it's like
tight.
it is almost like a real ensemble of people performing, but then
Hmm.
like very torn apart and rearranged by Seth, and then with me crooning and auto tune on top of it. And so I think it's like I'm very stoked. That's like the one of the other big things.
So
Um,
sick.
I'm trying to think of what else. I've been working on a bunch of like various things. There's a couple of solo things.
Hmm.
I did a guest mix for Ooh Sounds that's actually airing in like a couple of hours.
Hell yeah.
And like, so I think I'm going to be doing a release for them. I'm not 100% sure if that'll be this year or next, but basically we'll do some sort of solo release, and then I'll
Tight.
be doing a 12-inch for Mondoge,
Oh hell yeah, that's cool.
which will be like basically jam packed with like collabs and guest
So
appearances,
tight,
like
so tight.
for
Celebrity.
a tiny length of time. But I'm trying to basically just get a bunch of people to record and collaborate and kind of arrange them all together.
Hmm.
And so I think that that'll be pretty exciting. And I feel like I'm leaving something else. There's a record I played on by Alex Alone is coming out. Very very emo ambient band. Alex is great. They play with Low Melda and Howdy.
Oh wow, that's
And
sick.
so this is like their big debut, and it will be very cool. I'm sure that will be things will start to be announced for that soon.
That's awesome.
And I'm trying to. I know that I'm forgetting something very important. I am. Yeah, actually, I have something coming out like way soon. I have a tape. I have a tape for Lil Learn tapes coming out
Oh,
pretty soon. I'm
sick.
really excited
Yes.
about
That's
that.
so tight.
There's a collab track with Ben Bondi, who I really love on there,
Hmm.
and we've been working on some other tunes together too. And I'm really amped on the material that we're doing together.
Was that one of the songs that was played on Claire's live stream?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Obviously, also very emo ambient because it's like
Huge.
it's like kind of like emo-y like guitar that sounds like it's coming from another room, and then like Ben and I are both sort of mumbling in auto tune. Like there's a lot of field recordings and synths and stuff, and yeah, so that song will be on the Lil Learn release, but then Ben and I have like 3 or so other tracks we've worked on together that are in the same universe.
That's so sick. We're getting close to wrapping up the show here. Give me your top 5 people you want to shout out.
Top 5 people I want to shout out.
Could be anyone.
Okay, I guess like first of all, my partner Hannah, who is in the other room for dealing with me for a pretty good portion of our lives. Shout out Claire, best friend,
Shouts out.
number one collaborator. Really just like want to hang out with her, be around Claire all the time.
Yeah.
And let's see, who else do I want to shout out? Shout out Jimmy Tamborello / Dintel.
Hell yeah.
My man,
Oh yeah.
great dude. Shout out. I've got to really think about this. I've only got 2 shout outs left. I got to make it count.
You can't ask for any more.
Yeah, I totally understand. Hard limit.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, shout out my friend Somya. She's great. She has a really good band called MEMME. They're super underrated in Austin. It's like really great electronic pop.
Hell yeah.
She gave me a demo the other day that was better than like 90% of like actual recordings I feel like bands do.
Yeah.
She's also going to be modeling for the cover of something Claire and I are doing.
Oh,
but
so sick.
As something that will be 3D rendered, which is
Oh, hell yeah. That's awesome.
But it's really cool that she agreed to do that too. She's great. We swap songs and talk all the time. And let's see. Oh, and shout out Not a Human, but shout out my dog Pierre.
Hell yeah,
Number
Pierre.
1 dog, 5 years running in our household / only dog.
Number 1.
Shout out Pierre.
Yeah, but great dog. Really, really love him a lot.
So I think that just about does it for the show. Did you have any last remarks you want to put into the airwaves and archives? And where can people keep up with your projects?
So keep me up with the projects. Usually best thing, just follow me on Instagram or Twitter. I never update the Maurice Bandcamp page. That may happen in a consolidation effort in the future.
Yeah.
But because of certain rules with Bandcamp, it makes it kind of hard to keep things like streamlined. And I used to upload or like try to consolidate. But the best thing is to usually just follow me on Twitter or Insta for those updates.
Hell yeah.
And there's like a link tree that will take you wherever you need to be. So that's probably the best thing. And yeah, final thoughts, emo ambient forever.
Hell yeah. So before we go, we actually have one more question. You're gonna hit her with it, Maddie?
Okay, I will go ahead and hit with this classic question. So, a rat is going to jump into your mouth, head or butt, and why?
Ooh.
Do you want this rat to jump in head first or butt first? And why?
Okay. I think head first.
Why?
Why? I don't know. I feel like, it's more opportunity to like get it out of there before the butt gets in. Also, like, I don't really want the tail going in first. I feel like that's going to be a whole weird, like, that's going to like
that's a whole other situation.
Like, go down the throat.
Yeah.
In a like not very cool way.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely gonna go with head on that one. I mean, I guess the concern is then teeth, but like I can take some bites on my tongue. That's all right.
Hell yeah. That was amazing. Well, and I think that's about all we have for today. So thanks for tuning into TBD on KCSB FM 91.9 every Sunday 4 to 6 p.m. and NetNet Radio every Saturday 8 to 10 p.m. This is Maurice. Thanks for being on the show, Mari.
Yeah, thanks so much, y'all.
And thanks again, Maddie.
Fun.